The junk heap of science is full of therapies that at one time were thought to be good ideas, but turned out not to be so good. For example, mental illness was treated with frontal lobotomies. If you had a cataract, you'd lie in a hospital with sandbags around your head for 2 weeks because it was thought that if you mucked about with the eye, it needed rest. If you had a heart attack, often bed rest for 6 weeks. Today, of course, we know that that's not a very good idea. You try to get the patients up as fast as possible. But when they were on bed rests, visitors would come and bring flowers and plants to the room to brighten up the spirit. Well, interesting enough, at night, attendants would come and take those plants out of the patient's room. Why? Because they said that the plants sucked up oxygen at night and there would not be enough for the patients to breathe. Well, that idea belongs in the junk heap of science. What is going on here? Plants carry out a number of chemical reactions. They're really chemical factories, very neat chemical factories. During the day, when there's light, they photosynthesize. The word photo comes from the Greek meaning light. This is the most important chemical reaction in the world because without it, plants cannot grow. Without plants, we have no life. We eat plants directly or we eat animals that eat plants. We can't live without plant life. So photosynthesis is really critical. What happens is that the plants pick up carbon dioxide from the air and combine it with water to make glucose, which is the material that they then convert into the amino acids, the carbohydrates, basically everything that we eat. But at night, the process is reversed and the plants respire. Respiration produces energy. Well, how does it do that? It's really the reverse of photosynthesis. Glucose is burned by the plant. It is combined with oxygen and it produces energy, and that is what runs all of the plant's processes. So it is true that at night the plants do take up oxygen. However, the amount is way, way too little to matter. A visitor in the patient's room is inhaling far more oxygen than the plants are using up. So there's absolutely no need to take the plants out of a patient's room. Now, there's another concern that arises, and that is with cut flowers. Sometimes visitors will bring cut flowers, and those are put in a vase, and they are kept in the patient's room. This time it has nothing to do with photosynthesis or respiration. It has to do with the water. Why? Because there was a theory that the water that the plants sit in or the flowers sit in would be a breeding ground for bacteria. And if someone happened to spill the vase in the room, this could be of consequence. Well, it turns out that in the medical literature, there's no evidence ever of anyone having had any kind of bacterial infection because of plants in the room. Sometimes people bring plants into patients' room thinking that it's going to clean the air. And I'm sure that you've heard these kind of stories. People think that having more plants in the house cleans the air. Well, that comes from a small study that was done in 1980s by NASA. That's the National Aeronautics and Space Agency in the US. And they were worried about the buildup of chemical scents inside of the space capsule. So they carried out some experiments to see how they could reduce this problem. And using a very small chamber, they put plants in there, and it turned out that the plants could indeed absorb some of the formaldehyde, some of the benzene that were produced by the equipment in the space capsule. However, when they ran these experiments under normal conditions in a room, not in some small constricted chamber, there was absolutely no effect. The plants did not improve the air quality. So what do we learn from all of this? If you want plants in the room, by all means have them because they are pretty. In fact, studies have shown that patients who have nice views of trees through the window or plants inside their room actually do better. It gives them a more relaxed feeling. So no, don't worry about taking the plants out of a patient's room. In fact, go ahead and give them more plants as a gift that will brighten their spirits. And remember that the notion of taking the plants out of the room at night is pure quackery.